Welcome to the NZ Travel Show, an interactive show where you can ask your NZ travel questions to the experts behind nzpocketguide.com, New Zealand's largest travel guide. The NZ Travel Show will start in exactly 2 minutes. Just the time for you to hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and subscribe if you have not done so yet. nzpocketguide.com has over 3,000 articles covering all aspects of travelling in New Zealand, from a working holiday gap year to tips for a perfect family holiday. The site also features dozens of pre-made itineraries that you can use to plan your ideal trip in New Zealand. It's all available for free at nzpocketguide.com, so check it out. The NZ Travel Show is hosted by Robin, the Operations Manager of South Pacific Pocket Guide Company behind nzpocketguide.com. The New Zealand Travel Show is also hosted by Laura, a journalist and editor-in-chief of South Pacific Pocket Guide and all its publications, including nzpocketguide.com. We're exactly 1 minute away from the NZ Travel Show. Get yourself comfortable and start asking your NZ travel questions in the chat. Robin and Laura will go over them when the show starts. In 30 seconds, our experts will be live from New Zealand to give you all the practical New Zealand travel tips you need, from the best transport options to the best accommodations and activities to choose for the perfect New Zealand holiday. Live from New Zealand, this is the NZ Travel Show with your travel experts, Robin and Laura.
And good morning, everybody. I hope that you are all doing fabulously. It is Sunday, the 28th of July, 2024, and this is the NZ Travel Show. We are here for a whole hour to answer all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. Well, Laura, why should people ask us their questions about traveling in New Zealand?
Well, Robin and I run nzpocketguide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide. We have been doing travel guides here in New Zealand for over 10 years
we have.
now. Oh, God. We kind of know a thing or two about travelling around the country.
We do.
Shut up. Stop now. Stop. Okay, even though we might not seem it.
It might not.
We are the experts of travelling in New Zealand, so come and ask your New Zealand travel questions in the live chat during the live show. That's the best place to come and get your questions answered.
It is.
However, if you do miss the live show, if this is a bit of a weird time for you all, as New Zealand time zone is pretty out there compared to the rest of the world.
We do like to be isolated and have our own time.
Very isolated. Then feel free to ask your questions on the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we are happy to answer them in the comments as well. Today we are going through a theme of what our video is going to be about, which Robin can tell us more.
Yeah. So today we decided to pick an activity that pretty much everyone wants to do in New Zealand, but a lot of people are scared of. So we thought we'd demystify it a little bit, and it's black water rafting. So it's kind of an epic way to take on the Waitomo Caves. So the Waitomo Caves are really famous for their beautiful displays of glowworms that looks like some dashing galaxies in the sky far away, but they're actually cannibalistic maggots on the ceiling of caves.
Yes.
But they are really pretty to look at, and you can go and just walk under them, in many different caves, etc., all around New Zealand. But in Waitomo, there is something which is quite unique, which is black water rafting, which in short is a little bit like tubing, down in caves. So you get a lot of action-packed kind of moments when you do that, and you crawl your way through a bunch of caves and a whole cave network while checking out the glowworms and learning more about the local culture of New Zealand. So there is kind of a lot of things happening there. There is mainly 3 companies with which you can do black water rafting, and don't worry, we will go over all their tours in detail during the hour that we have together. But the main company is the legendary Black Water Rafting Company. It's probably the biggest one. The Waitomo Adventures is another company, and the last one for a black water rafting in Waitomo is called Kiwi Cave Rafting. So in this hour we're going to be demystifying what is black water rafting. We're going to be talking about all the different tours you can take and compare them for you, and then we're going to talk about other different ways to tackle the Waitomo caves and to get to see the glowworms if you feel like black water rafting is not for you. That's our agenda for this morning. In the meantime, if you do have some questions about traveling in New Zealand, it doesn't have to be anything doing with black water rafting. You can ask it to us in the comments. And we're starting with Adil. What is Adil saying?
Adil says, Kia ora, Robin, Laura, and all of the viewers.
Kia ora, Adil. How are you doing? Okay, so let's begin with our black water rafting coverage, and let's talk about 10 main things you need to know about black water rafting. What is it? What can you expect? And is it really that cold in the caves? So let's get started, Laura. So the first thing is that basically you don't need any caving experience. You don't need to be a spelunker to tackle the Waitomo caves, do you?
No, absolutely not. You are guided the entire way, and yeah, so the guides obviously know the way through the networks. They know all the obstacles you may come across and know how to like get around them. They will be with you every step of the way. So it really these are really like tourist sort of commercial activities that have gone through various health and safety checks, all that good stuff. So yeah, you don't need to worry about making your own way through caves or having any experience with maybe rock climbing or any of that sort of thing. You can be a complete noob and still have an awesome time.
Noob. All right. Will you see glowworm during all the black water rafting tours, or is it only certain tours?
No, absolutely. You'll see glowworms in all of the black water rafting tours. Obviously, some tours are more focused on the glowworms than others, but whichever one you choose, you usually get to see them, and you will see quite a lot of them, and they'll decorate various parts of the caves. So yeah. Glowworms all the way.
They'll decorate it. I just can picture that maggot doing Christmas decoration in there. That just makes me laugh. The mental image of it is beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, so how cold is the water when you do black water rafting? Will I freeze to death?
Well, you won't freeze to death.
Okay, that's good. I like to hear that.
But yeah, the water temperature in the Waitomo caves are usually between 10 to 14 degrees Celsius. So in Fahrenheit, that's between 50 to 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all year round. So whether it's summer or winter, it's pretty chilly, the water temperature. So whatever time of the year that you go, you will be equipped, which we will get onto in our next point. But they will make sure you're equipped to stay warm in the cold water. And it also shows that even in winter, it's still well worth doing black water rafting because it pretty much feels the same as when you're doing it in summer.
Okay, so what are they going to give me during the tour, and what do I need to bring? So what's the equipment situation right here?
Okay.
Do I need my own wetsuit?
You don't need your own wetsuit.
Okay,
cool. So what the companies will provide to you are thick wetsuits. So that means that you're going to have like
8 mil. They give you like really
they'll
thick
give you
wetsuits,
thick ones, yeah. And then that means like when there's water that gets onto your wetsuit, it usually keeps a nice thin layer of warm water between you and your skin.
The other advantage of those really thick wetsuits is that they are extremely buoyant. So that means that you will float. So even if you're really bad at swimming, which it's always a scary thing to go in a cave full of water if you don't know how to swim, well, you will be sorted with that.
Yeah. You're also provided with boots because obviously you are walking on rocks. You want your feet to be comfortable, so they do provide you with boots that can get fully submerged and fully wet. They also give you a helmet, health and safety. And also there's often the option for an optional fleece layer. So if you are prone more to the cold, if you are going, especially in winter and when you come out of the water, there'll be times where maybe you're outside of the water and it's a bit chilly. They will usually provide you with a fleece layer that you put underneath your wetsuit. I believe.
So it's not a fashion statement, you know?
It's
yes,
not.
Of course it is underneath the wetsuit,
Yes.
Nice. So what do I need to bring as a traveler?
So what you need to bring is pretty simple. You just need to bring some swimwear so you can wear that underneath your wetsuit, and bring a towel to dry off at the end of the tour.
Okay.
And probably some money to pay.
All right. So can I come with my entire family of 12? Is it like how big are the groups?
Yeah. So obviously different tours have different group sizes,
Yeah.
but usually they can accommodate usually up to 12 people. Especially say if you're doing Water Rafting Company's tour, the Black Labyrinth. Which we will talk about a bit later. They tend to take larger groups up to 12 people, whereas tours which may have a little bit more, a little bit more going on, like the Black Abyss, the Kiwi Cave Rafting, and Waitomo Adventures Lost World. Yeah, usually with a bit more abseiling. The guides there needs to be a ratio of more guides compared to people. So it's usually like 1-to-4 ratio of guide to guests. Usually it's for Black Labyrinth, that's a large tour. 12 people is usually a good amount. For those smaller tours, you can expect to have between sort of around 8 people for those smaller tours.
So how does the tour finishes? Do I get to warm up in some ways, or?
Yes, so the good thing about all these tours, because they are taking you into sort of kind of chilly caves, and you are sort of bobbing around in cold water for a while. The good thing is that at the end, if you have been basically submerged in water and stuff, you do have the opportunity to have hot showers. They will also give you warm drinks. Usually, for instance, with the Water Rafting Company, they have soup and bagels at the end, but different companies will have, different variations of warm
soup and bagels.
Food. Yes, so either way, you'll get something warm at the end, and sometimes midway through as well, to keep you warm for some of those longer tours.
All right, so what's the photo situation down there? Because taking photos in the dark takes a while. I want to set up my whole equipment, so I want to take some amazing photos, Laura. How does it work?
Yeah, so usually on tours, you are not typically allowed to take your own cameras.
Nope.
You usually can't take GoPros and stuff like that onto the tour. First of all, it takes a while to get decent photos inside the caves, but the good thing about all of the cave tours that we are going to mention during this video, just specifically to do with the caving and Water Rafting, is that they all take basic camera equipment with them. The guides will, and they'll take photos along the way. It's not going to be like, whoa, the most amazing photography ever, but they do take photos that they provide to you at the end of the tour. So there are opportunities to get your photos at the end, and they do know the best photo spots to take those photos throughout the tour. They do it every day, so they're kind of much more experienced with taking photos in the caves than most tourists will be. So it's usually best to kind of leave it up to them to do the photos and either purchase or get the photos for free, depending on the company at the end of the tour.
Okay, and next question is it safe to do? Like, is there sometimes like floods down there, or like what's going on right here? Will I survive a Water Rafting tour?
Yeah, you will survive.
Oh, good, thank
you
you.
seem to be very concerned with dying here, Robin. But yeah, you will survive your Water Rafting tour. And tour companies will only run the tours if it is safe to do so. They don't usually take risks. And it's very rare that there will be a situation where it's not safe. Only situations usually when it's not safe is when the water levels in the caves are too high. They do monitor this, obviously throughout the day. And they're always monitoring it and assessing whether it is safe to go into the caves, and obviously making sure that it will be safe even from the beginning towards the end of the tour. We have been personally in Waitomo ourselves, where we have had tours cancelled because of the rising water level, but that was really a rare situation.
And in fact, you can find, if you type Water Rafting NZ Pocket Guide, for example, you can find a video of us doing that activity at probably the highest water level possible, so you can see how crazy it can get, and we still went through, did our filming, and it was all safe. So they really only operate when it's safe.
Yes,
correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so last question, which is right here in the chat. If you do have a question of yourself, you can absolutely put it here. It's from Adil, and he says, Are any of the activities in today's black water rafting coverage handicap accessible?
So the Blackwater rafting tours are very
Very active.
Very active. You will have to have usually full mobility to do these tours. You will need to be able to walk yourself. You'll need it's very basically, as Robin says, it's very active. So unfortunately, these ones are a little harder to cater to people that are using wheelchairs, for instance, and having other mobility issues. They usually do go through like a whole sort of health and safety sort of briefing at the beginning, and you do sign waiver forms and stuff like that. But if you feel like in your situation, if you've got a different type of disability that you're unsure whether you can do these activities, then it's always best to contact the company directly and sort of explain your situation, and they'll be the best ones to assess whether they think it is good for you to go on the tour. Maybe sometimes they can arrange to have one of the more experienced guys to go with you. So it's always worth checking. It's never a solid no answer, depending on what your situation is. Always worth asking.
Nice. All right, so that's kind of all the thing that people ask us the most often about blackwater rafting in New Zealand. Next up, we're going to be talking about all the different companies, different tours. What are your options when it comes down to experiencing blackwater rafting in beautiful New Zealand? But first, live chats. That was just Adil. That was just saying thanks in advance. Okay, well, we're all good. Remember, you guys can interact with us in the live chat. It makes the algorithm happy. Otherwise, well, we continue doing the show for only 3 people, which we are very happy to do. It does not matter too much.
And we don't just have to do it for the algorithm as well, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, if you guys have questions, don't be shy. We are here to answer them all. We have been doing this live show for quite a few years now. So yeah,
I don't know. It says on the thumbnail, because I do the thumbnails a little bit in advance. I can't remember what it is, but it has to be 200 live shows. It has to be something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many it is, but it's a lot of live shows. It's good. Okay, so let's continue our coverage of blackwater rafting in New Zealand. And so what we're going to be doing now is that we're going to talk about, the 3, 4, 5 kind of most popular kind of tours and options. We selected companies. And we'll just tell you a little bit about what happens during those tours, what makes them different from one another, and give you a few basic information about them, just so you know where to start with your research in picking the best blackwater rafting tours for yourself. So we'll begin with, the one that gave its name. So it's called the Black Labyrinth, which is from the legendary Blackwater Rafting Company. So that's a tour that takes about 3 hours, that costs you, in 2024 prices, obviously, about $180 per adult and about $130 per youngsters, child. So that's under 12 years old.
No, the minimum age is 12 years old.
So the minimum age is 12 years old. Your minimum weight is 45 kgs, which is 99 pounds. And so in this tour, you're going to do some tubing, waterfall jumps, glowworm, cavings, and walkings. All right. Now, Laura, tell us more about that tour.
Okay, so the Black Labyrinth tour is primarily a sort of tubing tour. And what tubing means is having a big inflatable ring, popping your butt in it,
like the inner chamber of a truck kind of ring, right? Those kind of like, that's what we're talking about, like inner tubing ring, right?
Yeah. So, or some people might see it more as like an inflatable donut type thing. So you sort of pop your booty in the hole, and and then that's your sort of flotation devices. You're floating through the underground rivers and streams that goes through the caves. So that's primarily what the Black Labyrinth tour is all about. But there are some opportunities to do some different cool stuff along the way. So you will be doing, for instance, jumping off ledges that are about, how high would you say? Usually like a couple of meters or 3 meters. That, like, not too crazy high.
The high of a robin, usually. About that.
So so you do like jumping with your tube into the water. You are floating underneath views of glowworms, that sort of thing. You also get a bit of time at the beginning of the tour to sort of get used to your tube by jumping sort of in the river outside of the caves beforehand. When I say river, it is a very gentle flowing stream. There's not crazy rapids or anything, which is often maybe a misconception about blackwater rafting. You think it's going to be like whitewater rafting with all these insane rapids and stuff, but it's really not the case with blackwater rafting. You're usually floating at a more sort of relaxed, sort of calm pace when you're doing blackwater rafting. Other aspects of this tour as well are jumping from small waterfalls and doing a little bit of caving, a little bit of scrambling while you're holding your tube to get to like the next part where you can float again. So
yeah, the swimming in this kind of tours is very minimal, right? Just sometimes we do get people ask us like, oh, do I have to kind of swim the length of an Olympic swimming pool? Absolutely not. It's usually more scrambling around and there's water around, and when you are in the water, quite often you're just floating. If you were to just stand up, you'll have water like chest deep, right? You wouldn't be like really kind of like sinking or not being able to touch the bottom, or at least from my memory, it's kind of like not really.
Yeah,
like,
you're
never
not.
been a case.
You're not full on swimming or anything. Yeah. And also during this time while you're doing the caving tour, you are your guides will tell you some various Maori legends to do with the Waitomo cave tours, which are really interesting. It's just a really it's not the most adventurous blackwater rafting tour, but it's a really good option if you're maybe a little bit nervous or you have people in your group that are really keen, while maybe some people are a little bit like, oh, I'm not I'm a bit scared about it.
It's the tool which is perfect for family when you have really uneven level of both fitness and swimming abilities and everything. Like I the more uneven your group is, I think that's the best choice.
Absolutely,
for sure.
yeah.
But that hints into like kind of the next section of what we're going to be talking about this tour. So why would you choose the Black Labyrinth tour, from the Blackwater Rafting Company? So yeah, in this section, we're just going to give you a few reasons about why you choose it. So the first thing is, obviously, if you have a very uneven group, that works really well, because it's just kind of like a great option for families, isn't it, Laura?
Yes. So although the minimum age is 12 years old, so it's usually not for like tiny children, but young teens.
Tiny children, kids, you mean, right?
Young teens, that sort of age group is when you can start going on the Black Labyrinth tour.
Another really good reason to choose this one is that it's probably the most affordable out of all the Blackwater rafting options.
Yes, and even as we go through and tell you prices for other companies on this list, this is the cheapest one. Black Labyrinth is the cheapest one to go for. So it's a good option if you want to get that caving experience, but you are on a bit of a budget.
All right. Another good reason to pick this one is that if you're on a really tight schedule and you're just doing a lot of different activities during a day and driving around, it probably is the shortest tour, isn't it?
Yeah, so this tour you'll need to set aside 3 hours in total for it, which is obviously a lot shorter than the other Blackwater Rafting tour with legendary Blackwater Rafting Company, which is 5 hours long. Some of the other tours that we're going to talk about are usually around 4 hours long. Sticking to the 3 hours is a good sort of short alternative if you're stretched for time.
Stretched for time. And last reason to choose this one is that it won't be too scary.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry too much. For instance, other tours on this list that we're going to be talking about, they have abseiling from a great height, which can be really scary if you're afraid of heights. With Black Labyrinth, you don't have to worry about, being afraid of heights or anything. When we talked about some of the jumps that you do, it's usually very small jumps, and if you don't want to do them, you can usually just scramble down and not jump it. There's other options as well. So it doesn't have any of those big scary challenges that might be off-putting to some.
All right, so that's everything you need to know about the Black Labyrinth tour from the Blackwater Rafting Company. There is a link in the description of this video that will send you to an article that will go over all the information we're talking about, right? So if there is some terms that we're using or some words you're not sure about what we're saying, we have a full rundown of everything we're saying just in the description below. Also, hit some of the buttons like and subscribe. That makes YouTube happy. Let's keep moving and let's talk about another experience for Blackwater rafting in the Waitomo area, and it's from the same company called the legendary Blackwater Rafting Company, and they have a tour called the Black Abyss Tour. So this tour is 5 hours as compared to the previous one, which was only 3, and the price is $299, so it's obviously a little bit more. And the highlights are abseiling, ziplining, tubing, water jumps, waterfall climbs, glowworms, caving, and a little bit of walking around. So Laura, tell us a little bit about that tour and what's different about it.
Yeah, so Black Abyss is a lot more, I guess, hands-on. There's a lot more variety to this tour compared to the other legendary Blackwater Rafting Company tour we talked about just a second ago. So this one, you sort of start off the tour after obviously you've got changed into all your wetsuit and all your gears and stuff. You start off the tour doing a little bit of a tuition of how to abseil.
Tuition.
Yeah. Instruction, I guess. A bit of instruction.
A bit of training.
A bit of training, that's a better word.
Yeah, I think we go for training.
Yeah, a bit of training on how to use the abseiling. So you do this outside of the cave before going in. You do have, usually groups, I think, usually have about 2 guides on this tour. And you're sort of practicing doing that before you are doing your abseil into the caves. It's a bit of a tight squeeze to start with. It's a bit of a small abseiling hole, but then as you go down, the sort of cave starts to open up a bit more as you abseil down. And then from there, you are doing some a shorter but still fun zip line through the caves. And then from there, it's more of a mixture of doing tubing. So again, that tubing aspect of the Black Labyrinth tour that we talked about, sort of floating through the river. But you're also doing a lot of walking and scrambling over rocks. I think it's a Black Abyss tour where there's a little bit of a slide at one point. So yeah, you're having a bit of not a natural water slide. The water is natural. The slide has kind of been built in there. So you do a bit of a water slide, and then sort of. Yeah, obviously you're seeing glowworms as well as you're caving. And
it's a really good moment because that's the moment where you're actually not caving on this one, you're just floating underneath, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really cool kind of relaxing moment. You do a lot of action, and then you get to see the real glowworm like floating a little bit and then back action. So yeah, it took me off camera. This is how much action that was.
And then finally, when you've done all this really cool scrambling through the caves, maybe you've seen a little eel in the caves that the guides will point out to you. You might have had a little bit of a chocolate fish and a little bit of hot drinks to keep you warm. And then finally...
Laura doesn't leave the cave until she got the treats, by
so
the way.
Where's my chocolate fish?
Yeah.
And chocolate fish is a very New Zealand snack for those of you who are like, what's a chocolate fish? But yeah, when you towards the end, you need to get out of the caves, and the really cool way of getting out of the caves is doing a little bit of a waterfall climb. So yeah, the guides will show you where to put your feet and how to get out. So you don't need experience in climbing and stuff. They're really good at basically guiding you through climbing out of the cave. So yeah, it's a 5 hours experience. So there is, obviously I've kind of summarized it very simply there. But yeah, that's basically in a nutshell what Black Abyss is all about.
All right, like we did with the Black Labyrinth, let's talk about the reason why you should pick the Black Abyss 2 out of all the options we're going to be talking about today. So first up, if you're in for a bit of an adventure, that's a tour for you.
Yes, absolutely. This is the more adventurous of the 2 legendary Blackwater Rafting Company tours. If you have that go big or go home mantra, you're only in New Zealand once, and you want to do something really fun and adventurous, then I definitely recommend going for the Black Abyss tour. If you've got that adventurous spirit, off you go.
Yeah. We also think that for 5 hours, it's pretty good, decent value for money, right?
Yeah.
So it's only about $100 more than the previous tour we talked about, but you get almost twice the experience, right? So if you are coming to New Zealand that far, if you're making your way to Waitomo, which is actually quite isolated compared to like a lot of the main kind of areas of New Zealand, well, you may as well kind of treat yourself and really do the complete experience. And I think that's, for just an extra $100 is definitely worth doing. Next up.
Yeah, and finally, it is a fun challenge. So if you are really, you've never done an experience like this before, there are lots of really cool aspects to this tour between the abseiling, the zip lining, climbing up the waterfall to get out at the end. There are probably a lot of experiences that you may have never had before. So, at the end, because it also is quite, it's quite hands-on, it's quite active. At the end, you might be feeling really proud that you've done something that challenging.
It's an achievement.
Yeah. So there's that advantage as well.
All right. So that is it for the Black Abyss tour from the Black Water Rafting Company. So we talked about both of their main products. Again, links in the description of this video for like the full guide. And now we're going to start talking about a different company. And so we're going a bit more premium. We're going to be talking about the Lost World half-day adventure by a company called Waitomo Adventures.
Yes.
So Waitomo Adventures is a really cool company. It's more like independent, right, compared to like the Black Water Rafting Company, which is part of a very large conglomerate in New Zealand. So you'll be more into kind of like a mom pop kind of shop kind of area. And the tour lasts for about 4 hours. The price is $575, and you do an epically long abseiling. You also see glowworms, you do caving, and obviously a bit of walking, which when we say walking every time, it's scrambling on the rock with water and everything, right? So it's not your peaceful hike, obviously. All right. So what do you expect during the Lost World tour, Laura?
All right. So the main thing about this tour is the abseil. It is huge. Again, you are equipped as you would be with the Blackwater Rafting tour. You're equipped with all the wetsuits, all that sort of gear to keep you nice and warm. You've done this tour yourself, right? They'll do an abseiling sort of tuition at the beginning.
Yeah, a little bit of practice. Yeah, for sure.
And then, once you are all ready to go, all ready and set, you are doing an epic 100-meter...
328 feet for the Freedom Unit users.
Yeah, abseil into the caves. So, this is pretty epic.
So just to make it clear, right? Like, people don't necessarily realize. So when you do abseiling, 100 meters doesn't seem too long or anything like that. It's really high. Also, when you do abseiling, you don't tumble down the depth of the earth. You kind of, you maneuver your way down and everything. So it's about a 20-minute. That alone is about 20 minutes of your tour, right? Which is really, really epic. And the scenery around with the beam of light coming from the tobo, which is the hole just right above you, is lighting the whole cave. It is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and that's kind of the main aspect of this, seeing the cave open up as you are abseiling down. You'll see all these sort of mossy green vegetation growing on the cave walls. You'll see all the beautiful stalactites as well as you're descending down.
You'll try to avoid the stalagmite when you're landing, because that may hurt.
This is this company is really famous for their abseil, and also the best thing about it is that, again, you don't need to have any prior experience to do this sort of thing. It is, again, a really adventurous activity that you can also do as you're a beginner. So after you...
I just want to point out another really cool thing about that abseiling is that as you go down, you hear the roar of the river more and more and more and more, right? So there's a river, obviously, that kind of the water down the cave, right? And so that as you go down, like, you kind of barely hear anything on top, and everybody's talking and everything. As you go down, you kind of more and more and more kind of, when you say like, and also you're in the middle of the cave, so you get the echo of all of it. It's really cool. It is a really cool feeling.
Then, of course, once you have got down to the bottom of the cave, and there are other people on your tour that will be coming down into the cave with you. You then have the amazing experience of making your way through the cave to find your way back out again. Through this you will...
Can't move in there, guys. I know rent is expensive everywhere in the world, but this is not a rent-free squatting area.
Yeah. So you obviously, as you're scrambling through the caves, you will see lots of amazing limestone features. Of course, glowworms that are hanging to the ceiling as well. You love my descriptions of glowworms, don't you? So you'll see lots of caverns, ledges, and ladders in order to get back out of the cave. And then finally there is the 30-meter stairway to heaven.
98 feet for those that like to measure things in burgers and fries.
Yes, so that's a bit of a surprise that you can enjoy towards the end of your trip. And then once you get out back into
New Zealand forest,
into the I say dry land, I guess,
it's New Zealand. It's never dry. Native New Zealand forest is the best way you can go.
Forest. Then you make your way back to the base camp of Waitomo Adventures.
All right, so now that we kind of sold it to you with beautiful words and prose, let's talk about why you should choose the Lost World as opposed to other places, right? So first up, let's talk about the abseiling again. It's definitely the highlight of the tour, and that's probably the tour in New Zealand that does abseiling the best, right?
Yes, absolutely. So it is one of the best abseilings that you can do in the whole country, even if you're not particularly, whether it's to do with the Waitomo Caves or not, there's no other abseiling that we know of that is as adventurous as that.
And that's like 20 minutes going down the cave. It's just so like, it feels like you kind of doing your own journey to the depths of the earth. It's so cool. Cool. The size itself of the caves, the caverns and all that is actually probably one of the more spacious ones, right?
Yes, it's very large. It's a huge cavern. So compared to other tours that we're talking about in this video, the caves are, although there are some quite large caves, they're usually, most of the time it's quite compact, like the ceiling's quite low, that sort of thing. So this one is just like the scale of the cavern itself is very just like a huge wow factor, so that's another thing that makes it different.
And finally, it is an epic adventure. It's really adventurous, but it's perfect for beginners, right?
Yes, because you do have that expert guidance, and your guides are showing you how to abseil, so you basically can start this tour having no prior experience to abseiling, but it is one of the best sort of initiations into abseiling that you can imagine, basically.
All right, so if that sounds that your thing, check out the Lost World Half-Day Adventures by Waitomo Adventures. Okay, so we're moving on. Believe it or not, we have more options for you, so you can continue researching. And if there is one that tempts you more than the other, just put it in the comments. We would like to hear what you guys like out of what we're describing. We want that thing to be a bit less empty. Come on, guys. Cool. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is Black Water Rafting Adventure Tour by Kiwi Cave Rafting. So this is a tour that will last about 4 hours and cost you about 300 New Zealand dollars. The highlights are a smaller amount of abseiling, glowworms, tubing, caving, rock climbing, and some walking. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about the Blackwater Rafting Adventure Tour.
Okay, so this one, operated by Kiwi Cave Rafting, again starts off with an awesome abseil. So this time it's an abseil that's about 27 meters long.
88 feet!
Which will take you through a beautiful cave, again seeing amazing plant life that's sort of clinging on to the edges of the caves, which is also really amazing. You'll also see those refractions of light beams coming into the cave, so it is a very
cathedral-like cave.
Yes, a very cathedral-like cave. So yeah, obviously amazing landscapes subterranean landscapes that you're seeing on this tour. And again, obviously glowworms are here, so you also get to see the glowworms as you are enjoying this journey.
Feasting on one another, cannibalistically.
Yes, we do keep talking about the glowworms and how they are like cannibals and all that. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then you will find out on these tours.
They are horrible living beings.
Tour guides love telling you about the life cycle of the glowworms.
They are absolutely horrible living. They may be really pretty, but mate, they're horrible.
Yeah, so you'll learn more about that on the caves, in the cave, sorry. So after you've done your abseil, you get to do a bit of tubing. Once again, in your rubber rings, you'll be floating down a nice gentle stream where you have the luminous glowworms above you, and then you'll have a little bit of scrambling to do. You'll be squeezing through different narrow passages. And then towards the end, you will be doing a bit of rock climbing and scrambling, about 20 meters climb to get back to the base.
65 feet.
65 feet.
Indeed.
And yes, at the end, again, you'll get a nice warm shower and you'll be able to warm up with a few different refreshments. But what makes Kiwi Rafting a little bit different from all the other tours that we've talked about is that they are a very small company. They are locally owned, so it is a New Zealander family business, so they own and operate it. They've been there for about 25 years, and it just provides a bit more of a small-scale, personalised experience compared to some of the other tours. Usually, this tour you will find you are just like maybe the only group with them or a couple of groups with them. So, yeah, it's usually a lot more intimate.
Yes. Okay, so well, you started hinting at some of the reason why choosing the Blackwater Rafting Adventure Tour from Kiwi Cave Rafting, but let's go over some of the reason why. So first up, what we find is really unique about those guys is that you actually do have a really big mix of caving experience rather than having to choose one or the other. This one does a little bit of everything,
Yes.
including climbing.
Yes, absolutely. That with the addition of rock climbing, which you only get kind of hints at if you're doing, say, the Black Abyss tour with the waterfall climb. But this one, there's a lot more of an emphasis on the climbing out of the cave.
I mean, 20
toward
meters is
the
almost
end.
10 robins. It's more than 10 robins.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
so that's a lot of robins to climb.
Yeah, so, and yeah, again, you still get to do the tubing aspect, abseiling, scrambling through the caves, seeing all the glowworms. So this really does tick all the boxes for all the different caving experience you may want in Waitomo.
Indeed. So Laura already explained that, so we're just going to skip through the fact that it's owned and operated by a lovely Kiwi family that's been around for about 25 years, so intimate experience for sure. But another good reason to choose those guys is if you've done Waitomo before, because pretty much no one knows about this small company, which is really, really cool and should definitely get much more clout than they currently have. So if you've done Waitomo before and want something different, that's a good option.
Absolutely. They're very underrated, so usually people are really happy to have discovered them.
All right. So next up, we're going to be talking about other ways to experience the Waitomo caves. If we frightened you and you still want to see those shiny cannibalistic maggots, we've got some options for you. Laura, out of all those tools that we talked about 4 main tools, right? Which one's your favorite?
Ooh, I would have to say I do very much enjoy the Black Abyss tour.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think that's partly because of nostalgia reasons. It's the first Blackwater rafting tour I did in New Zealand, and it was the first time I got to discover it for myself. I really loved the variety in that tour, which to be fair, Kiwi rafting tours, Kiwi cave rafting also has that variety.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good variety of different sort of
for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
How about
I think I'd have to pick the Lost World tour by Waitomo Adventures, just because of the epicness of that cave abseiling. Like, it's just such a strong introduction, you know. It's like watching a good movie and you have like the perfect character introduction, you know. Like, you watch a movie, you watch the first Pirates of the Caribbean, and within the first 4 minutes of the show you literally get to know everything you need to know about that one character, right? Well, that's that feeling for those 20 minutes when you go down the abseiling. You get to see everything and breathing. You feel epic. You feel like, you know, you're like going down to like the depth of the earth, like Jurassic Park style. Like, you just feel, everything just feels so kind of like, oh. So it's like that perfect introduction, right? So yeah, that's the one I will kind of pick.
Cool.
All right. So let's move on to the last section of today's video, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to be talking about other ways to experience the Waitomo caves. So if Blackwater rafting is not your vibe, if you know, you are ready to be mind blown by the glowworms, but you do not want to get wet, well, we do have some options for you. Also, if you don't want to get wet, don't visit New Zealand. It rains a lot. That's why the country is so beautiful. What are you doing to yourself? Now, no.
Yeah.
Rant over. Option number 1 to check out the beautiful Waitomo caves is the Ruakuri Cave.
Yes,
So-
I was just going to say, and to answer Dill's question before, if Dill was looking for a wheelchair accessible cave
Yeah.
to experience, this would be it, Ruakuri Cave. So listen up, Adil.
Nice. So the tour in the Ruakuri Caves is about 2 hours. It's a little over $100 per person, $40 for a child. And go for it, Laura. Quick description.
Okay, so this one is a fully walking tour. It has perhaps the most epic wheelchair ramp that you'll ever find in your life.
That's true. That's
Which
true.
is like a big spiral all the way down into the caves. And yeah, you get quite close to the different limestone formations as you're doing this walking tour. There's obviously lots of beautiful stalactites and glowworms that you get quite close to all these features, so that's really interesting again. And also it's it's obviously cheaper than going blackwater rafting. I
Yeah,
guess.
it is.
So yeah.
All right, next up, speaking of cheaper, we're going to the Aranui Caves. It's a 1 hour tour, $75, $30 for a child. What's the hubs, Laura? What's
Yeah,
Aranui?
again, it is the cheaper of the two tours. Well, the three tours from Waitomo Caves company.
Yeah.
So
Their name is too descriptive. It gets us confused sometimes. Yeah.
So yeah, this starts off where you are going into some beautiful native forest, and your guides are more talking about the flora and fauna and the different cave critters that you will find when you're going into the glowworm caves. So you are learning about the glowworms as you go in there, but as well as insects like the weta, which is an endemic insect in New Zealand, and they're really huge. But also you get to see a few different formations that are quite cool and unique, such as stalactites that are different colours, like pink, white and brown. So that's sort of like the main chamber has that aspect to it. In terms of limestone formations, Ruakuri Cave is better for limestone formations, but if you want to learn more about the different insects and stuff, then Aranui Cave is a good option, and it's a good one with kids.
Indeed. Okay, speaking of a good one with kids, the Waitomo Glowworm Caves, which is probably the most famous one of them all. It's a 45-minute cave tour, costs about $75, you know, and for per adult, and $30 per child.
Yes. So this is quite a quick tour that you can do if you know you're sort of rushing your way through the North Island and want to do Waitomo very quickly, then the Waitomo Glowworm Caves is a good option. This is done in very large groups, so you're usually with, usually there's like huge bus tours and stuff that will go on this tour. They'll take you into the Cathedral Cave, which is a very large cavern. You'll see that, interestingly, there's a lot of like paved ways, like they make it very accessible for people that maybe can't walk as well and stuff. However, you will still need to get into a boat at the end, so it's not fully accessible. But yeah, you'll get to see beautiful stalactites, stalagmites, you'll get to see the glowworms, and perhaps the most impressive way of seeing the glowworms on this cave tour is at the end, where you get into a boat and float underneath this huge display of glowworms. I think it's the largest colony of glowworms in Waitomo, so that's where you'll see them all. Or not all, but you'll see the most of them.
And if you're a glowworm, that's an all-you-can-eat buffet for you. All right, and so let's talk about the last one. It's the longest one of those walking tours. It's with a company called Glowing Adventures. It takes 3 hours. It's $179 per adult. And the hard limit is 6 people per tour.
Yeah, so this tour is kind of like a hybrid between your easy walking tour that we just talked about, or blackwater rafting, but it's not as adventurous as blackwater rafting because you're not abseiling, you're not floating in tubes or anything, but you are going on, I think they do keep you out still with helmets, that sort of thing, but you don't need to be in a full wetsuit. And yeah, you are sort of doing a sort of walking / scrambling tour through the through some private land where they do have some caves there. It is unlike the other walking tours that we mentioned in the fact that it hasn't had any sort of concrete floors or rails or anything put into it. It's all a natural cave, so you will see it in its full natural glory. There's no artificial lighting as well, so you'll be going through with torches. You're basically getting to see it in as much of its natural state as you can. Again, beautiful glowworms, limestone formations, all that good stuff. And again, Glowing Adventures is a much smaller company in Waitomo, so you're getting a much more intimate experience. And with really small groups, again, Robin said it was 6 people was the maximum. So again, you're getting a really small group. So yeah, it's a very nice alternative tour of the Waitomo Caves. And not too crazy adventurous, while not, not being part of a huge tour group. Yeah.
And if you are looking for private tours, that's kind of your best option. If you're if you're really keen photographer, they also do some specific photography tours, which is quite cool as well. All right, so that is basically all your options for checking out the glowworms in Waitomo. As Travel in My 50s is saying right here in the live chat, there's also plenty of places in New Zealand where you can see the glowworms for free, just by kind of walking around and everything. But this was very much about like the Waitomo area and the black water rafting. But they're saying you can see the glowworms for free at Blue Lake near Rotorua. Have a go at night, and it's a short walk from the parking to the woods. where you can see the glowworms. That's true, there is plenty of places
Yes.
even around the hot water beach, on the west coast and the southern as well. So there's plenty of options for you to see glowworms around New Zealand for sure.
And you can see an article on nzpocketguide.com, which is a list of 10 places. I think it's 10 places, it might be up to 15 now, places where you can see glowworms for free in New Zealand.
Indeed. So there's plenty of links for you in the description to help you do more of your research and plan your trip to New Zealand. So check them out. They're here for you. They've been written by ourselves. And Adil is asking, what's the theme for next week? I have no idea just yet. So if you guys want to suggest something in the comments, you can. In the meantime, thank you so much everybody for watching. Don't forget to hit all the little buttons so the algorithm and the AI and all those robots know that they need to learn from this video. And
So they could create their own content.
yeah, so they can create their own content and we are rendering ourselves completely irrelevant. In the meantime, we see you next week at the same time for another NZ Travel Show. You all keep yourself safe, you all keep yourself happy, and yeah, bye-bye.
See you next week, guys. Bye.
If we're not replaced by robots yet. I don't know.
Maybe we already are.
Are we a robot? I don't know.